Hello, I'm Carolyn Wagner from the Conservation Foundation, and the Conservation Foundation is a nonprofit that helps to protect land and water so that wildlife and humans can live in a healthy environment.
Hi, my name's Dave Bart. I'm an ecologist and I work with a company called Stantec. Stantec partners with ComEd to restore native Illinois landscapes. Just like you see behind me, we're working on a habitat restoration project here with the children from Wagner School. ComEd owns a lot of land. As you can see behind me, there's a large stretch of open space here. And what better way to utilize that land than to restore and enhance Illinois' famed ecosystem, the prairie. And what is a prairie? Well, a prairie, scientists would call it a grassland type of habitat, dominated by tall grasses, has very few trees, but also a very high diversity of wildflowers. A very rich ecosystem that has resources for a variety of plants and animals. And over the past year or so, we've been working to restore that habitat by planting native plants and hoping to attract some of the insects and other wildlife that depend on these species.
So Mighty Acorns is a program that Wagner School has been involved with since 2003. So the students at Wagner School have been helping the environment since that time. And what Mighty Acorns program is a stewardship-based environmental education program. So kids get to get out in nature, learn about different plants and animals in their local communities, and then they got to help the environment in their local communities. So they get involved in different projects. Over the years, we have removed invasive plants from Preston Field, which has allowed all the little oak saplings to come out. And then last year, we started the program in conjunction with ComEd and Stantec to improve the habitat for wildlife in the right-of-way. And we were really concentrating on pollinators, so different animals that help plants to produce their seeds, and then in turn those plants are providing food for those animals. Okay, one of the important plants that the students at Wagner School helped put in was common milkweed. And the reason why this plant is so important is that monarch butterflies lay their eggs on this plant, and then this is the only plant that the caterpillars use for their food source. So one of the things that's interesting about the plant is that it has this milky sap. So the sap from the milkweed makes the caterpillar taste bitter, and so that is one of their survival strategies, because the birds who like to eat caterpillars are going to stay away from the monarch caterpillars because they taste bad. Another interesting thing about this plant is their pods. So when the plant is pollinated, then the fruit forms, and then so this is the fruit, which is a pod, and then I'm going to take one that's a little bit drier and open it up. So these will dry out, and then they will break open, and what's inside this pod is their seeds. So all their seeds are packed in there, and as they dry out, you can see that the seed is here, and then it has this little fluff on it, and as it dries out, it's going to be like a little parachute that can fly through the air, and that's how the milkweed spreads its seeds. So different seeds spread their seeds in different ways. So the milkweed spreads its seeds through the air, whereas this plant over here, this is Solomon seal. This one, animals will eat the berries and then they'll poop out the seeds. This one is Queen Anne's lace, which is actually not a native plant, but the seeds have these little tiny hooks on them. So they're called hitchhiker seeds. So they stick to people's clothes or animals, and then as people or animals rub them off, then that's the way that they spread. So seeds have different ways that they can be spread or to be dispersed.
So as a monarch moves in its life cycle, it starts out as an egg on the milkweed here, and then it transitions down into a larva, which is a caterpillar. And the caterpillar eats on the milkweed until it reaches the point where it's ready to develop a chrysalis. And it stays inside the chrysalis, hanging on the milkweed plant until it's ready to mature as an adult. This is the butterfly we know as the monarch. Now, when the monarch is an adult, it needs a whole different variety of resources. And what it's looking for at that time is actually flowers. So here's an example. This is Goldenrod here, and it's named after the golden color here that you get in mid-September. And you can see that this is kind of a cone-shaped flower. And each one of these cones is made up of actually hundreds of small little flowers. And the monarch butterfly will land on this plant, and it utilizes this as a source of nectar. Another plant that the monarch might utilize is one like this. This is called hairy aster. And you can see these small white flowers with a yellow center. And this is also a valuable source of nectar for monarch butterflies and other wildlife as well. So last fall, the children planted a variety of wildflowers and grasses all throughout this area here. And right here we found an example of one of the species that they planted. It's in full bloom currently. This is sky blue aster. And you can actually see that there's some insects buzzing around, but this is another important source of nectar and pollen for monarch butterflies, other butterflies, and a variety of bees and other pollinating insects. So we mentioned that we're restoring prairie, but this area here is not quite a prairie yet. We know that restoring prairie takes quite a bit of time. We started last year, and now we're in the phase of increasing our management efforts. And some of the things that we'll be doing, we'll be incorporating more native seed, we'll be planting additional native species, and we'll also be removing some of the non-native plant species so that the natives can thrive.